Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Beyond the Album Cover, where not only do we get inside the entertainment industry with those in the know, but we also get inside the minds of those that are boots on the ground in whatever part of the world they're in all day, every day. And right now, I have two very good people from the great state of Louisiana, Shreveport to be exact, Miss Constance Love and Derek Henderson of the podcast Circle of Truth. Welcome, guys, to Beyond the Album Cover.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for having us.
Not a problem. So, how you guys doing tonight? And I appreciate you all taking the time out of your busy schedules to do this interview with me.
I took a nap today because I'm a political junkie. And so for the last 4 or 5 days, I've been, my sleep has been broken. Most of the country, trying to see had those numbers come in yet. And
So,
had the
you've been
numbers
waiting
come
on
in.
pins and needles.
Well, not necessarily pins and needles, because I knew how the vote would unfold, but just waiting on anticipating them making the call.
Mm-hmm. All right. How about
So I'd
yourself,
be up every
Constance?
2 hours or so.
Mm-hmm. How about for you, Constance?
Well, I'm a claims adjuster by trade. And so hurricane season has extended. Well, I mean, what I should say is hurricane season normally ends November the 30th. However, 2020, we've seen some unusual situations. So I ended up traveling today and I'm staging because Hurricane Eta is supposed to hit Florida. So I'm in Birmingham right now, waiting to see where my deployment's going to be. So, but I too have been on pins and needles as well for more than one reason, because I was just concerned, especially with me going out in the field and interacting with people. I was just concerned that, if Trump did not win, what I was going to have to deal with. So that's a level of anxiety for me.
Yeah, because as we're seeing right now, the country is very divided, especially in the area where I'm in New Mexico. It's very Republican. So I saw a lot of Trump caravans rolling around with the flags and everything. So it's very tense. But we're all about fun stuff here Beyond the Album Cover. So we're going to sweep away the political talk and we're going to talk about a lot of music, a lot about Louisiana culture and everything of that whole 9 yards. So first up with Constance, tell the people a little bit about yourself, about Shreveport, and how the culture in that part of Louisiana is totally different from New Orleans, Baton Rouge, the southern area of the state. And then Derek, same question to you after Constance.
So what I will say is this, I'm definitely not the authoritarian on the Shreveport culture. So I'm going to have to slide that over there to Derek.
Mhm.
I'm originally from the Midwest, and I guess about 25 years ago, or maybe a little more than that, I might be dating myself. I ended up moving from Missouri to Texas. So I've lived in Texas. I lived in Texas for a couple of decades, and then I ended up moving to Louisiana. And I believe that the Shreveport area is really no different than Texas. I mean, what I found is this, that everyone loves to cook. In addition to that, they love to sing. I've heard some amazing voices come out of karaoke. If you cannot sing, do not go and try to sing at karaoke. Those people will laugh and boo you. Because I mean, it's just like you go to karaoke and it's just like you're in a live concert. Uh, I think the culture, the mindset in Louisiana is a little different than what I'm accustomed to in Missouri. What really helped me understand the culture in Missouri, I mean, in Louisiana, is when I watched the movie a few years ago, 12 Years a Slave.
Mm.
Why are you laughing, Henderson?
Because that's interesting.
So, I mean, so yeah, so like I'm from the Midwest. I had to start telling people in Louisiana that there was nothing Southern about me, so that to try to give them a different perspective of me whenever I interact with them. And sometimes, giving people like a disclaimer, sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. But Louisiana is different. Definitely very rich in culture, very talented people, um, but they're a little different.
We haven't quite discovered ourselves yet.
Is that what it is? I don't want to say.
Yeah,
Uh,
but the thing that I would say about Shreveport, to answer his question, I think Shreveport has some of the best and worst of everything, and sometimes it could be the best and the worst all at the same time. If you know what I'm talking about, Constance. But like she says, we have good food, we have good people, and we have a lot of talented individuals here. If you want to really get some good singing, some live entertainment, then Shreveport, Louisiana has just about some of the best that I've seen. And I think about, to me, the best soul singer that I've seen personally in person is Eddie Spencer. And then you talk about Jonathan Jewett and even Larry Ellis, who toured with Patti LaBelle. I mean, we've had some really, really talented people in Shreveport, Louisiana in that way. We are known as Louisiana's other side, and as Constance alluded to, we are more Texas than we are what people traditionally think of as Louisiana. They think of more of the Creole Cajun type of culture when they think of Louisiana. And we are slowly incorporating I think as the years go by, as the days go by and the years go by, we're becoming more and more Cajun. At least Creole is something that's unique and I think specific to the New Orleans area. But we are becoming more Cajun. We have embraced the Mardi Gras season in North Louisiana. Our parades are different because our parades are more family oriented, I would say. But it's still a good, entertaining time. And then there are lots to do in Shreveport, Louisiana. I will say that nobody's in a hurry to do anything. It's like a status quo, and that can be frustrating at times. But I choose to live in Shreveport because it's my home. I've lived away before, but it's something about Shreveport that just draws me here. And so my prayer to God is to reveal that to me real quick and let me be working in that lane really quick.
Mhm. Now with Shreveport, from what it sounds like, you're not gonna go hungry. You're gonna find somebody always cooking, or somebody saying, "Yeah, yeah, come on, let me fix you a plate," or at least say, "I'm gonna go to this grocery store and put half on something so I can earn my keep and not just freeload off the food like Bro Man from the fifth floor."
But we have that too now.
oh, we
Of
forgot
course,
about the alcohol. We forgot about the alcohol. Like,
uh,
like you can just drive
and get alcohol.
up
And
until what time of night? Is it
I,
1 in the morning?
probably, I think so. I think so. But yeah,
So
we have drive-through liquor stores.
yes,
You
daiquiri
can get
shops.
a daiquiri, and I mean, so we encourage people to drive and drink, or to drink and drive.
Exactly.
but drive responsibly. Be sure to have a DD, call a Uber, call a Lyft, and that's for those of you that partaking of the spirits, not me per se, but for those of you that do, just know that Louisiana is the place for you. So now, as far as further south, like Baton Rouge, New Orleans, that area, everybody internationally knows of that area because of whether it's Grambling or Southern's Band, Cash Money, No Limit, Treme that was on HBO a couple years back, and then Spike Lee's documentary of when the levees broke about Hurricane Katrina. Now, during that time period in the early 2000s, did your area of Louisiana see a lot of influx of people from southern Louisiana coming further north? Because I know from the documentary and on CNN, they were saying that a lot of people from that part of the state were dispersing like to Houston and various parts of the country once Katrina hit.
Yeah, I had friends and colleagues and fraternity brothers that were displaced
Oh,
by Katrina.
what fraternity, may I ask? I'm not a member. I'm gonna throw that out there. I may know some people who are members of whatever 3 letters you rep.
No, well, Kappa Alpha Psi
So shout
fraternity.
out to the fellas
The
with the
new
canes, the shimmying, and go ahead and throw the sign up. Throw
that
the sign up. Throw
the
the sign up.
look the shimmying is for the young people. I mean that's a new generation.
Mhm.
I can't. Well, I shimmy, but I can't get all the way down with it no
Yeah,
more. I'm
yeah,
not 26 anymore.
yeah. But
Not to do one
Kappas
anymore.
is a running joke that Kappas is the fraternity for the pretty boys. Like if you get waves and you constantly keep your hair brushed, you are probably Kappa material. And shout out to all my friends in the D9, whether you're AKA. Shout out to Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, who is an AKA. Shout out to Delta Sigma Theta, Zeta Phi Beta, Phi Beta Sigma, Alpha Phi Theta, Alpha Phi Alpha, Omega Psi Phi, all of the D9 organizations for all the community service work that they do in and out of their respective communities. Just thought I'd throw that out there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
I
lost
did,
my train of thought.
yeah. I did want to join one of those organizations at a point in time. I will tell you about it more after this about that, and there's still a possibility, you may never know. But you were saying how you knew a lot of people who ended up getting displaced due to Katrina, and they were kind of dispersed out all over the U.S.
Right. So people literally went to work that morning, and whether they were able to finish their shifts or whether they had to leave school early. I mean, they literally at a moment's notice had to evacuate and grab what you can. A lot of people, what you could fit in a car, and you just had to scramble. And a lot of people were depressed. A lot of people had some mental anguish, especially because New Orleans is rich in culture, and it is a diverse place. And so when you come to a place, you have to move and relocate and reestablish, not of your own volition. It took a toll on a lot of people. Some people adjusted well, but a lot of people did not, and they look for the opportunities to go back home because New Orleans is unique, in its food and its culture, the way that they operate in business. I mean, it's just a totally different place, and so yeah, we had a lot of people to experience displacement, and so you know.
Yeah, because looking at the documentary and just hearing how, a lot of people, they've been living there all their lives and they don't necessarily have the means or the transportation to be able to pick up and go because you may not have family in Northern Louisiana or Texas or anywhere for that matter. Or you look at the fact that I survived this hurricane, this is not going to be as bad as that one. But then when it comes and you see the neighborhoods flooded, people for days wearing the same clothes, not being able to bathe, dead bodies floating, kids who have not had diapers changed, and it just breaks your heart and it just shows you the disparities in our country between the haves and the have-nots. Because on the nice side of the city, the levees didn't touch over there, but in the areas where it's a lot more lower middle class or what have you, that's what tended to be flood prone, and everybody was packed into the Superdome like sardines.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess one thing I always tell people, because I am in the industry, if you're ever given the warning to evacuate, I think it's important to evacuate. Even if it means that you have to go spend the night somewhere and you might have to spend $50 or $100, to drive there and get a hotel room or drive to your nearest family. To me, it's worth it, in opposed to waiting to the last minute, because I think that's what happened in Katrina. They some of them waited to the last minute, and they couldn't get out.
Mhm.
You know,
And
and
does it cost more if you wait to the last minute, you think?
well, I think it costs more from the standpoint of trying to the time it takes when they're trying to make a mass exodus out.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I'm look at Katrina and then look at Harvey.
Mhm.
They told people to leave Harvey,
Mhm.
and it ended up being where people were on the top of their roofs, or they had to go to the second level of their home and then take canoes and wade in the water to leave. And if
Mhm.
they had just heeded the warning, I mean, that's my professional advice to anyone. If they say mandatory evacuation, don't wait. If they just say, hey, there's a high probability and that you might want to evacuate, evacuate.
So
Don't wait till the last minute.
definitely don't do that. Now, I want to ask you this, Constance, since you are a claim adjuster. Now, if you live in a high risk area where you're more prone for hurricanes and flooding, does homeowner insurance cover any damages, or does that vary on your policy and what state your policy is in?
So when it comes to flood, homeowners insurance does not cover flooding. You do need to take additional insurance out for that. And so if you're in a zone for flooding, yeah, you need to take the insurance out. If you are close to a levee and if it's made available to you, take it. The saddest thing about Houston, and the majority of my claims were out there in Katy, and Katy's a very, very nice area. You would see these people here with probably a quarter to $500,000 homes, and they lost everything.
Wow.
And they were waiting on FEMA, and FEMA, their cap may be $30,000. And then they, depending upon what your credit is, they send you to go get a loan. So flood insurance is really not expensive at all. So yeah, so I'm a huge fan of, yeah,
Yeah.
recommending people take out flood insurance. And as far as hurricanes are concerned, um, people really need to evaluate their hurricane deductible. In 2020, Louisiana, the Baton Rouge area, they were hit twice. And quite a few people had a 5% deductible. So we were looking at people that had anywhere from maybe 5,000 to maybe $11,000, and sometimes it was a little more than that. So that meant if their bills or the damages didn't exceed that amount, nothing was paid.
So you was
So that's
just out of luck if you didn't meet that deductible.
right. So one thing that I think people really need to understand, that deductible is your out-of-pocket expense, and you definitely need to review your policy with your agent. I mean, if it's available for you to reduce your deductible down to 2%, your premium, may go up $20, it may go up 30, it may go up 50. But if you look at it, weigh the pros and cons, it's probably worth paying the extra premium each month so that, something happens, you're covered. Either that, or if your deductible is, say, for instance, $5,000, make sure you either have $5,000 in the bank or have access to $5,000.
Mhm. Better to be safe than sorry. And like I was stating
Yeah.
earlier, I'm originally from North Carolina, so I know a little bit about hurricanes myself. I'm a little further
Yeah.
inland away from the Outer Banks, but when hurricane season comes, I tell folks like, man, I've been through hurricanes. It's nothing. Unless the hurricane wants to curve further inland, we only get the remnants of wind and rain. But on the rare occasions where we do get hit, it's just hunker down, make sure your phone is charged for a couple of days, have your non-perishable food items, your survival kits, and make sure that everything
Hmm.
is good to go. Now, Derek, I want to come back to you and I want to talk about what is the connection with the French culture as to why Louisiana is the only state in the U.S. where you have parishes while the other 49 states in the U.S. have counties.
Well, because of the Louisiana Purchase, and the when the French purchased Louisiana, it extended from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up to the Canadian uh, bo- uh, borderline. And but when it was broken down and resolved, and they decided, what Louisiana would be comprised of, they just made a choice to have parishes and not counties. But a parish functions the same as the county. We are uh, like I live in Caddo Parish, which is the same as Orange County. So we have a parish government that functions very much just the same as county government. Our sheriff is a parish wide official. Our district attorney is a parish wide official. So we're not any different than any other place, except we call ourselves parishes and they call themselves counties.
And that's how
Now, the
you have
laws
it.
are a little different.
How so, Constance? How are the laws different in
Well,
Louisiana since you have parishes instead of counties?
I mean, we're dealing with the Napoleon law,
Right.
which means if someone is going to go to law school and they go to law school in Louisiana, then they have to take, when they go to take the bar in another state, the laws are a little different.
Mm,
So yeah, so I mean, and that's something Derek and I both are interested in is law school. And what I've always struggled with is that, if I went to law school in Louisiana, you know, yeah.
So it's a
If
little
I
bit
go to
more
law school
wrinkles that has to
in
be added in
Louisiana,
because of the extra formalities with Louisiana law.
spend the rest of my life in Louisiana, so therefore I don't want, huh? Say that again.
I was just saying it's just a little extra wrinkles that's added in because of state law, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, did both of you complete your undergraduate or graduate degrees in Louisiana?
No, I
No.
No.
did. I did.
Or
I
what
did.
school did you go to?
Uh, you said it earlier, the Grambling State University,
He
which is
did
in
not say
Georgia.
anything.
Yes, he did. He
Yeah,
said that he
yeah,
talked
yeah.
about
I
Southern
mentioned Grambling
Grambling
and I
Bay.
mentioned Southern about the Bayou Classic. Now, Grambling University, for those of you that don't know, great marching band, Doug Wims and the late great Eddie Robinson. Google him if
That's
you don't
correct.
know who Eddie Robinson is. And where did you go for undergraduate, Constance?
So I went to Northwood University, which is well, actually, they're based out of Michigan, but they have a school in Florida and one in Cedar Hill. So it's a PWI, but it's a very, very solid, well-known business school.
Yeah, I went
Yeah.
to a PWI myself, North Carolina. Went to University of North Carolina at Greensboro, which is right up the street from North Carolina A&T, and 45 minutes down Interstate 40 from Winston-Salem State University. Now, Derek, since you are an alum of Grambling, I know it may be a biased question to ask, but who has the best marching band amongst all HBCUs in the nation?
No, well, I mean the world famous Grambling State University Tiger Marching Band. I mean, come on. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that's
Now, for
yeah, but
those of you that are
that
unfamiliar
ain't
with
even the
Southern
question.
culture and HBCUs, halftime is game time. Everybody don't want to watch the game, but as soon as that clock hits zeros at halftime, you are sitting because you are going to get a show. Because my high school that I went to in North Carolina, we pretty much modeled our show style after HBCU marching bands, where you're going to get the showmanship, the choreography, doing the popular songs of the day in your repertoire. In those formations, you had to be really tight. Now, I play sports. I didn't do band because I'm rhythmically inclined and I couldn't play an instrument, but I sure enjoyed the music when I heard it coming through the locker room at halftime, though.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. We go to the games to see the band, and of course we have the best tailgates, bar none. I mean, we go in the game at the beginning of the second quarter. And then we watch halftime, and then it's back to the tailgate. Of
Yeah,
course, we want to know who won. We want to know who won, and we're encouraging the players in that way. But it's just the extraordinary part of the whole experience, and so people go for that experience.
Now I want to ask you guys this question, so anybody could take it or give your thoughts upon it and trade it off as you go. So, what's your take on Deion Sanders taking the head coaching job at Jackson State?
Mm,
You sound like you want to say something that's PC and don't want to offend. I can tell it.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm pro HBCUs, and I think that our talents certainly needs to be at places where it could be fully developed and appreciated. And so I think Deion going there is actually a good thing. It'll bring attention to those players who may not necessarily get that extraordinary attention otherwise. So I think it's good. I think it's good.
So Constance, for you.
I have no comment.
Okay, that's the PC way of saying if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. But me, I'm
trying so hard.
You never told me, but what? So wait a minute, Constance, you never told me what we never talked about that. So just why? What?
Inquiring minds want to know.
Well,
yeah, we want.
I mean, there's really nothing to know. I mean,
spill all the tea.
Huh?
Spill all the tea.
I mean, I don't have any tea. I wish I did. I mean, I think he's very flamboyant and cocky and arrogant.
Mm-hmm. That's prime time.
And yeah, so kind of like in the height of his career, I was in Dallas. And I don't know. But I mean, if he can help springboard the career of a young male, then that's a positive thing.
I definitely agree that it's going to put a lot of eyeballs on HBCUs, and as we're seeing now with the tensions going on at PWIs, HBCUs are seeing increase in enrollment at HBCUs, and maybe they'll matriculate with a lot more 3, 4, 5-star recruits saying, hey, instead of going to Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss, I'm going to go to Jackson State, Prairie View A&M, A&T, Winston-Salem State, and we can be just as good, if not better, than those that are in the SEC.
But I mean, before we start going to PWIs, that's where all your talent came from, was the HBCU. So
yeah, and that was the only game in town. But once the PWIs figured out, like, hey, if I go get this guy from this area and bring him to my campus, I can make this. And the kids are like, I'm going to go to this bigger school because this bigger school can offer me more than what you can. And I could possibly be a top 5, top 10 first round pick and pick a sport. It's almost like this person's ice is colder, if you catch my drift.
Isn't that kind of the way America was set up with Superior?
Yeah, the person's ice is colder. If you don't know what that is, try to read between the lines, and I also recommend you read William Rhoden's book, $40 Million Slaves. And while we're on the subject of athletes and speaking out and using their voices for good, what was your take on seeing what the NFL athletes, NBA athletes, WNBA, and across respective sports leagues with everything that's been going on and flexing their muscles saying, hey, we're not going to be silent. We're not going to shut up and dribble. We are more than just athletes.
So do you want me to speak on that first?
Yeah, you could go ahead and take it first, and then you can go ahead and speak first, Constance. Then Derek, same question to you.
So first, I would like to preface this by saying that the talk about that you're not going to hear about on mainstream media. Okay, so having said that, I am a huge, huge fan of Kaepernick. Okay, and I am very, very disappointed in the fact that it took what, 2 or 3 years for the WNBA, for the NFL, and the NBA to stand in solidarity with Kaepernick. And I think that they are fake, and I think it's bogus, and that it's a trend. Because when he first kneeled, they should have been kneeling along with him. And that would have really resonated in the community. And I don't think it should have taken George Floyd's death for them to start saying it's a problem. So yeah, I'm not a fan of that at all. And if we're gonna be open and honest, and the Muhammad Ali was an athlete, he used his platform to talk about social injustice. What is his name? Last name
James
Brown.
Brown,
There was
Jim
a
Brown,
football player.
Jim Brown,
Jim
Jim
Brown.
Brown.
He
He was.
used his platform. Yes. So athletes and actors and actresses have always used their platform to talk about social injustices. So now we have a generation of African American athletes who refuse to stand out and speak. And I have an issue with that. That's probably not what you expected to hear.
But it's
But
your
I have an issue
opinion,
with
and
that.
I'll take that. So Derek, same question to you.
Yeah, but I agree with Constance. I think that you know, when given a platform, along with resources, um, they needed to spring into action. Um, Colin Kaepernick lost his career because
He did.
he stood alone, and his scenario probably would have been or ended very differently if there was more solidarity from other people that are professional athletes. Um, it. I agree with Constance again. You know, I mean, we saw what happened to George Floyd on tape, and that reaction caused people to take a stand. And so I'm just wondering, and I already know because not because they didn't stand up about the ones that they didn't see, right? And so we just happened to see George Floyd, and it was shocking. And I don't know what their pure motives were, but I think that everybody had to react and to respond, and that could have been a convenient way for a lot of them to respond. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they put up any money, any resources, if they reached out to any professional people who could develop programs or you know, I mean, I just don't know. Uh, um, I'm trying to be politically correct. I mean, I just thought that it was too little, too late. I guess.
So you felt that it was safe. Now that it's kind of like it's okay now to speak out and not really get any repercussions behind it, because I'm gonna be frank. Nobody wants to be the first. Nobody wants to stand out on that island alone with no sheet to protect them. Because when you're the first, you're gonna be by yourself. Craig Hodges stood up and was blackballed from the NBA. Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, formerly known as Chris Jackson, got blackballed. So when you are the first to do something, you're not embraced. You are out there all alone, and it's those that come after you that are doing it that feels where it's okay, because you were willing to take one for the team and sacrifice money, career. It's okay for me to do it. Not to say it's wrong, not to say it's right, But I just look at it that for some, it's all about protecting this rather than I'm going to forsake protecting this and whatever endorsements I have, stand on the principles of what's right and sacrifice everything. And that's what Kaepernick did. He sacrificed everything.
And to your point, that's real. People are limited to their means of making a living, and so that is a lot, to maybe expect. But then use the power of your platform and the power of your resources and the power of your money to invest in people who are willing to be on the front lines, who are willing to stand up and take a stance. And so, again, I think that it could have gone a whole lot differently.
Right.
So.
Yeah,
So,
even, I mean, so even, I mean, they could have, yeah, I mean, it really, so I'm not the one out of the two of us that are politically correct. I'm just very blunt,
to the
um,
point.
very much to the point. I mean, they're disingenuous, and if any of them watch this show, my name is Constance Love. Feel free to reach out to me, and I have no problems whatsoever inviting you onto the show, having the conversation. I feel like, I mean, even now, I am a Cowboy fan. Jerry Jones does not have, what is that, a quarterback?
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
He refuses to bring Kaepernick. Now, Kaepernick was not the best quarterback, okay, by any means. Huh?
He was really good.
Yeah. So I mean, but my thing is, I mean, they could bring him out. I mean, they finally apologized to him. So give him an opportunity to go back out there and play again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I feel like. And I feel like his team, the players, the other people in the industry, I feel like they should rally behind him. But hey, if we didn't have people like Harriet Tubman, if we didn't have, oh my God, what's the lady's name? Stacey Adams, everyone's talking about right now.
Stacey
If
Abrams.
we didn't, yes, if we didn't have those people, I mean, where would we be now? So may I hijack this platform for a minute?
Go ahead. Stand on the soapbox. It's all yours.
Let me stand. Look, I'm short, you guys. That's why
Hey,
I'm like,
I understand. I'm vertically challenged as well.
yeah, I'm short. So can I tell you what one of my favorite interviews was?
Go ahead.
So we had an interview with the president of Grambling
Mm-hmm.
and W.E. Du Bois's great-grandson.
Wow.
So W.E. Du Bois was one of the co-founders, along with Ida B. Wells, and I apologize the other lady's name, for the NAACP. And I just don't even know what to say. So what I liked, number one, from that interview is the fact that W.E. Du Bois's grandson, Arthur McFarland, connected with, what is one's president's name?
Rick.
Horrible. So he's going to invite him to Grambling. Du Bois' grandson will have an opportunity to go to Grambling and speak. And I think that young African Americans need to sit down and hear the softer side and also hear some history of one of the most iconic persons that we've had in our culture. W.E. Du Bois was one of the first, or he did the first study on African Americans. He wrote, it's called The Philadelphia Negro. And I don't remember the numbers, but he interviewed, I want to say, over 9,000 African Americans in Philadelphia. Okay. Philadelphia or Pennsylvania was one of the states that everyone paid attention to in this election, right? So basically, when W.E. Du Bois went into the Black families and he identified what some of the key deficiencies that we have in the African American community, guess what? It's 2020. We have those same problems.
And some more.
We do. We do. And we need leaders. I don't believe that the young generation truly understands the struggles that African Americans have gone through. I don't think they truly understand what is needed to take us to the next generation. So I think it's imperative, yes, that W.E. Du Bois's grandson and others sit down and have those conversations with our young people.
Yeah, I agree with that. And now, implore anybody, if you definitely want to know the history, go check out the African American Museum in DC, the Smithsonian, great museum, the National Civil Rights
It
Museum
is.
out of Memphis, another great museum, and then the International Civil Rights Museum out of Greensboro, North Carolina, which was the site of the sit-in movement with the Greensboro Four at North Carolina A&T. You don't know where you're going till you know where you've been. Now, on to the softer side. Enough of the hard stuff.
Okay.
We're going to go to the softer
Okay.
side. So what was your guys' take on when you first heard Cash Money and No Limit, and then they exploded nationally? Because if you look at what Master P and Baby and Slim did, was that they had the entrepreneurship of saying, hey, I'm going to take this localized sound, sell it out the trunk of my car, make the labels come to me, and then everybody else nationwide and later on internationally is going to understand what we do down in New Orleans. And anybody can take it.
You know, when I first heard the kind of music and what they had going on, I was like, wow, this is fresh. You know, when we would be in the club and you know, when Juvenile would come on, and I remember when Back That Thing would come on, and all the brothers be running out to the floor trying to find the nearest woman, you know. And then Master P make them sing, na 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 na, you know. When all that came on, it was different. It was fresh, and it caught your attention. And he certainly had a story, because people were always kind of infatuated with the French Creole culture of New Orleans, but not the Calio projects, that part of New Orleans, which is a really big part of the culture. And so they brought you there. You know, you got to see up close and personal what it was like, at least for me, for the first time, to really pay attention to people who had those experiences. And he is a businessman. I mean, he saw and knew the value of his product, which is good. He did not sell out, and he did not undervalue or underestimate himself. He stuck with it and became, you know, a multi-millionaire and built a brand and a company. So kudos to Master P. I mean, you know, I have nothing bad to say about Master P.
How about for you, Constance? Thoughts about Master P and Cash Money Records?
So I don't really know a lot about him. I mean, I enjoy his music, and his movie came out, what was that, about a couple of months ago? But that was in the middle of storm season, so I didn't really get an opportunity to dive into it. I do know that he has had some collaborations with a few people in Shreveport. So yeah, and I think yeah, my take is probably a little
It's a little on the saucy, spicy side. So we're gonna save that for hot ones. And I'm gonna say for
Yes.
Master P, what he did was when he was able to go to Priority Records and say, I want an 80-20 split. And for those of you that don't know, 80-20 is that I keep 80% of the profits. You as a label get 20. And when I was looking at the No Limit Chronicles, how they were just cranking out product every month. And then when he released the I'm Bout It on VHS, that he sold it at $10 a tape. So 2 million of them, got to keep all of the money, every last bit of it. And when I saw the Super Bowl commercial, I believe this year with the TurboTax, all people are tax people, I was like, look at here at Madison Avenue trying to gentrify New Orleans bounce. Only thing missing that commercial was Big Frida. I mean, at least you had the
But you know, New Orleans, but you know, New Orleans bounce actually started with DJ Jubilee.
Do the Jubilee all, do the Jubilee
yeah.
all, correct?
Yeah, and he is a noob, and he went to Grambling State University. So you know, but
oh my God, he's a Kappa.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but the one thing about that commercial, I was like, at least you guys got the Trigger Man sample, right? Because it's not a bounce record unless you have the Trigger Man sample. And Trigger Man is not even the name of the record. The name of the record is Drag Rap by the Showboys. And I believe they were based out of New York, actually. But that record ended up being a staple in bounce, because you cannot hear a bounce record without hearing that sample. Because I believe Juvenile put out a bounce record before he took off nationally. And pretty much every bounce record that came out had to have Trigger Man, or still has Trigger Man in it, in order to be considered a bounce record. Now, I was looking at a documentary called Hip Hop Evolution. And this one guy that was interviewing various people in and around New Orleans area interviewed Manny Fresh. And Manny Fresh was talking about how his dad was one of the first mobile DJs in Louisiana. And that before he linked up with Cash Money, he put out this record with another guy who I can't recall. It was a record called Buck Jump Time. And they said that when that record got played at the club, and when they shouted out whatever ward you from or whatever side you were from, that was like, get out the way, don't be in the middle, because it's going to be some head cracking.
What was the name of the song again?
The name of the record is called Buck Jump Time. I believe the guy's name, I want to say Gregory D. Don't quote me, but I know it's Manny Fresh was on it. It was like one of his first early productions before linking up with Cash Money, and then everything that came out of there, you know, Juvenile, Lil Wayne, Turk, BG, the Hot Boys, all of that good stuff that I remember from
and
my
Nicki
day.
Minaj. Nicki Minaj came out of that group. Out of that.
Yeah, so it's just crazy to see how New Orleans just impact the world, not only from music, but from food. I mean, you have Karens and other folks of that ilk trying to gentrify red beans and rice. I'm like, come on, dog. You cannot gentrify red beans and rice or Popeye's biscuits, which their biscuits, I'm gonna be honest, they're better than Bojangles biscuits. I'm from North Carolina, so North Carolina,
definitely.
My head, not to my heart, but Bojangles biscuits are good. But you're gonna need at least a gallon of something to drink to wash them suckers down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. You know, being from Louisiana, it's just hard taking other people's word or advice about food, because I've been to places all over the country and they got good food, and you go, okay. You know, it's kind of a letdown. So, yeah, I don't get too excited when people from other states tell me about good food.
So do you think Southern Classics chicken is better than Popeye's, Henderson?
I think
I think Southern Classics chicken is just like, it's like crack.
Chicken is chicken. Now chicken is really good
no,
when it's
chicken is
chicken is really good when it's fresh out that deep fryer, that grease. That's when you know it's going to be really good.
I think side by side, Southern Classic edges out Popeye.
Yeah. So if you ever come to to Northern Louisiana, you have to have Southern Classic.
Okay.
It's and
Oh,
they're also in Texas as well. They're in North Texas as well. But yeah, Southern
okay.
Classic,
Okay.
that's
I,
what's up.
I definitely have to check that out. And then, of course, like you were saying, Derek, about everybody's food culture is not the best, but I'm going to be biased 100% and say North Carolina, we have the best barbecue, hands down. Better than Texas, better than Memphis,
What about Missouri?
better than Kansas City. I know you
Mm.
disagree, but I'm a native North Carolinian. I know. We know barbecue.
Y'all like that kind of vinegary, tangy
But
type.
now with that, I'm gonna tell you this. That's Eastern Carolina based barbecue sauce with the vinegar and the
Mhm.
pepper flakes and the apple cider vinegar. That's Eastern Carolina barbecue sauce, which is my neck of the woods. But if you travel to
Mhm.
Western North Carolina, which is like Lexington down in that area, that they use more of a tomato based barbecue sauce. But you take a whole pig, right? You put that thing on the grill, let that cook overnight, get that fire stoked. So by the next day, the skin get all nice and crisp. You chop it up real fine, get you some coleslaw, get you some hush puppies, and you got yourself a meal there.
Mhm.
Did you
I
say
just
a
know when
whole
I was
pig?
in
Did he say a whole
I
a
pig?
whole
said
pig.
a whole pig from the rooter to the tutor. That is what we, yes, ma'am, from the
You know
rooter
what?
to the tutor.
I think that for sure, if you like that kind of tangy type taste, then but that's all in the sauce. The Louisiana barbecue is in the preparation and the smoking of the meat, and so you can eat our barbecue, uh, smoked meat without having your barbecue sauce. So that's the difference. I remember when I went to Interstate Barbecue in Memphis my first time, and I was with my frat brothers and everybody. You gotta go to Interstate. You gotta go to Interstate. And I went, and it was like, mm,
I didn't go to
mm.
Interstate when I went to Memphis. I did go to Gus Fried Chicken though. Their fried chicken is on point at Gus. I
But
highly recommend.
when you were in Memphis though, did you have fried barbecue? I mean, fried bologna sandwich, or is it fried or a barbecue bologna? It's something about the bologna sandwich in Memphis.
No, I did not
I-
have a fried bologna sandwich when I went to Memphis. Now with fried bologna, I'm a thin cut bologna man myself, not a thick cut bologna man. But now the key to cooking real good fried bologna. Now for those of you that's listening, listen up. What you do? Pour you a little bit of that Crisco in that pan. You cut you a little slit the way it looks like Pac-Man. Let that bubble up real good. Get you some Miracle Whip, not Dukes, not Hellman's, not your store brand mayo, but Miracle Whip. Spread that on both sides of your bun. Place the bologna on top of that. Put a little bit of dollop of mustard, French's, and then you have a nice fried bologna sandwich. Now, fried bologna is top 5 of all-time college struggle meals. I had fried bologna, cereal, hot dogs. I mean, if you've been to college, you know you're waiting for that refund check to come in the mail or direct deposit now. Then you know all about making that struggle meal or asking somebody like, "Hey, you got any extra meal
and
plans
now
in for
it's
the calf?"
considered a delicatessen. I mean, I like thick sliced bologna, and I'll go and I don't put it in Crisco, but I will, fry it in my pan and with cheese and Duke's mayo. But
Mm.
yeah. So it's a delicatessen now, and it's
Mhm.
just ironic how it was considered a struggle meal, uh, back in the Gap, but now you buy bologna by choice.
Mm-mm. Yeah, like I said, it's just crazy how we're talking about gentrification and how if we look at most cities across the country, we're seeing gentrification taking place nationwide. Because I went to DC about maybe 3 years ago when I was visiting the Smithsonian Museum, and how areas that once was considered impoverished and not the most desirable, all of a sudden they're renovating these townhouses and prices have gone up to where people who were once inhabitants of those areas, are getting priced out to live. So are you guys seeing the effects of gentrification in and around the Shreveport area?
It's starting to happen, but it's a slow process. Um, just simply because Shreveport is a blue collar town, and so the people who would be able, one, kinds of people that would want to live downtown, foot traffic access, uh, be able to walk to and fro from work. Uh, just, don't live in Shreveport. Would you agree, Constance? Shreveport is a lot of old oil and gas type people. I mean, so the idea and the concept was there, but it just did not. It didn't take off the way that I think that they had planned for. Just simply because of the makeup of the people. Shreveport is a blue collar town. It's not a town. It's not a white collar town at all. And and blue collar people, like to live in the suburbs and in the cul-de-sacs and uh, uh, in the gated communities, that kind of a thing.
So your take, Constance, anything you would like to add?
Um, well, I mean, it's well, the medium income in Shreveport. Well, I will say a few years ago, it was about, I want to say it's like around between 35 and maybe 40 some $1,000. I may be
I think
wrong, but when I
I
first
think
went
that's
to,
high. I think it's like 32.
oh, is it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is it? Well, so I opened years ago, and I thought, so I guess it must have dropped.
Well, because
Yeah, might have dropped.
when manufacturing is gone, and all the suppliers that went along with manufacturing, so it has dropped.
It kind of sounds
And then
like,
it's
yeah, Kyle saying it kind of sounds like my neck of the woods a little bit in North Carolina is very rural, very much agricultural. Textiles was the main industry, manufacturing. But once those jobs ended up getting shipped overseas, a lot of people were out of work and had to end up leaving, going to bigger cities to try to find work. Or if you were lucky, you were able to get on at International Paper, which is the local paper mill, or Lowe's distribution plant, or research distribution. So pretty much those type of jobs tend to pretty much fuel a lot of rural areas. So for those of the ilk like myself, whereas if you wanted to obtain more, you had to go to school and get something, get an education. And with education, as we're seeing, the cost goes up like that roller coaster every year in student loans. I mean, unless you get scholarships, unless you have an athletic or musical talent to where it could pay for your schooling, or if you're like Aunt Becky or some of the rich folks on Full House, pay somebody to get you into school or make a hefty donation so that way you can get in for free. We're seeing that unless you come from means, you're sort of getting priced out of the so-called dream, as they say. That's just my opinion. So, any thoughts on that?
on education.
Yeah, on education, the constant rising cost of education, given COVID, we're seeing a lot of students doing work online, and kids K-12 are learning online, and it's putting a strain on not only just the education profession, but also on parents as well. Some parents had to make that choice of, hey, do I go get this money, or do I stay home, take care of the kid, and maybe go from a two-income home to a one-income home because I just can't afford it.
Well, most people can't afford that. I mean, if you're used to living on a two-person income, I mean, most people can't. I mean, loss of any income would be, in my opinion, detrimental to the family. It is a sacrifice. For us, we chose for my son to go back to the traditional setting. We were able to go prior to the start of the school year. And my wife, who's a administrator for the school board, we knew the protocol and we trusted the protocol. And plus, I have a kindergartner, and they learn by interacting and hands-on. And so, I had reservations prior to, but the reality of it is that, because my wife is an educator, My son is more disciplined with her. And so with me, we weren't gonna make it. We were not gonna make it. And so for us, it was not a bad decision for us. Now we taught him to take all the precautions as possible. He will have his mask on in the morning when he get out of the car, when he gets out of my truck. But every day when I pick him up, the mask is not on, and I say, Jaden, where's the mask? Where's the mask? And so, but he doesn't like having it on. So I know as soon as he turns the corner, he's pulling off the mask. So he's already a teenager at 5 years old. Just But you pray to God and you hope for the best, and um, that's as much as I can say. I think that people probably have a different appreciation for
I
the
agree.
teaching profession. It's not as easy as most people think that it is. Requires training and discipline, and also children who did well in a traditional setting are the ones who are doing well in the virtual setting. The ones who struggled in the traditional settings are the ones who are struggling in the virtual setting. And a lot of it is based on discipline from the child, but the parents have to be disciplined as well. I can ride through the city at any point during the day between 8 and 4, and their kids outside playing. So they're not taking advantage of the virtual process. They're just not in school, and because it's hard, trying to teach a child, when you don't know anything about classroom structure, you don't know anything about um, order, those kinds of things. And so, again, with all that being said, we knew that my son being in the traditional setting was the only way to go.
Mhm. Anything you want to add, Constance?
Well, my children are grown,
So,
so
so you ain't got those problems.
yeah, I don't have those problems. But whenever I'm not deployed, I do substitute teach. So I do have an opportunity, or I mean, I was in the classroom right before COVID-19 hit,
Mm.
and I was working uh, in a, I forget what the area is called, but just to be politically correct, it was an area of low income, and it was middle school between 6th and 8th graders. And I feel like quite often, well, for starters, education is really, really important to me. And I don't believe that as a community, I don't believe we value education. It goes without saying that teachers are not paid what they're worth, especially in Louisiana. That's one of the lowest paying states for educators. Um, and then I think it's so very important that our schools are successful, and we have far too many schools that are ranking like D's and F's. And how does that impact us? Well, when it's time to go to college, instead of being able to take your first level classes, we're having to take DM or developmental classes in order to be able to catch up and be at the level that we need to be on. And that also impacts us as far as jobs are concerned. When you go in for a job and they ask you to take a basic math test, or to take a basic writing test, and you're unable to do that, or if you're working at Walmart or what have you, and somebody gives you $10 and you need to give them change and you can't figure out the change.
Yeah.
That's 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 concerning. You know what I mean? So what I enjoy substitute teaching, and I enjoy substitute teaching in that middle school age. Now, when I was in undergrad, I substitute taught for middle schoolers, and like I said before, I'm I'm only like a little more than maybe 5'1". So sixth graders, they're already taller than me, you
Right.
know. But I enjoy talking to and dealing with sixth through eighth graders because, you know, that's still like the formative years of their lives.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, it was the formative years of, you know, middle school kids. And I could relate because I was an educator for about 3 years. I taught special ed, middle school, and elementary.
mhm,
So I can
mhm,
understand that from that standpoint of how teachers are not paid enough. You know, I was telling people like, hey, I spent at least once 1 year, maybe $300 out of pocket on just supplies for classroom
supplies.
material. And you know,
Hmm.
schools are not going to reimburse you. So you definitely got to love the profession. You know, I'm no longer in the education profession, but I still have a soft spot for it because me being on the inside, knowing what goes down. And then, of course, with special ed, I worry about the kids that have IEPs and BIPs and just figuring out how their service hours and their goals are going to be met with the virtual learning because of the pandemic. Because I know a lot of kids can't function in this type of environment if they have specific
Right.
learning disabilities or BD or ED, and you know they need a lot more care.
And it's a problem, and you can't really expect the teachers to have. I mean, what's the resolve? Have the teachers to go into their home? It's just an unfortunate situation.
It's a catch
But
22.
catch 22. But something Constance said earlier, some colleges are deciding to move away from developmental classes. So you can't even take the '09 classes at some schools. And that is really an alarm at the gate. I found that out a week or so ago. And that,
Oh, wow.
they figured that by the time you get to college, I mean, you ought to know how to read and write. And, they shouldn't have to teach you what's two times two,
So they're getting rid of a lot of the remedial classes.
they are moving away from it.
Wow, man, that's
They
crazy.
think that you should be prepared when you get there.
Yeah.
You should
So
have been prepared before you got there.
so pretty much K-12 do your job. So by the time they come to us, they already have the basics and know what to do. And I think this also goes to saying we need to start pushing back more of trade schools because not everybody wants to go to school. Some people may want to go straight to work out of high school. And if you play your cards right, you can make good money. And another big secret, have less debt to do plumbing, construction, anything working with this, you can make good money for it, and there ain't no shame in it.
And you make more money than most people who have certifications and degrees out the wazoo. So, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but let me play devil's advocate here. We just had our first woman of color that was elected for vice president, and we can't continue to have, or if we take that route, how are we going to make the changes? I mean, we need to have more African Americans that are going to college and valuing education, because we need to change the laws. We need to be in positions of authority. And you cannot be in those positions of authority if you don't get the degrees.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So
So we
I
need to
mean,
be from the boardroom to, hands on the ground level. So
yeah, we
you're
need that.
absolutely right.
Yeah,
All right.
we need more African Americans in college. We need to, number one, make sure that as parents that we are getting our children tested to find out what our strengths and weaknesses are. If the strength is in science, then take them and show them different career choices in science. Because even as African Americans, we have a different disposition to certain illnesses. We deal with going to the doctor and people not taking us serious. So we need African Americans in research and development, not
Mhm.
just as doctors, but in research and development. We need more African Americans in politics. We need more African Americans as prosecutors,
Mhm.
as lobbyists, or
Mhm.
even in corporate America. We're not on the CEO level. So I'm not a Booker T. Washington fan. I'm a W.E. Du Bois fan. I am all about education. So for someone to sit there and say we need to work with our hands, baby, these hands right here, I'm not chopping any cotton. My mother picked cotton. My grandmother picked cotton. It's time for us to get out the fields. It's time for us to, it's time for us to use our brains. Like, we are smart enough, and we're not applying ourselves. We are applying ourselves to athletes, to music, and our hands in the service industry, which is huge in New Orleans. That's the reason why the poverty level is the way it is. So yeah, we need to start using our brains. We need to exercise our brains. And we can do it. We can. So yeah, I don't subscribe to that Booker T. Washington theory.
And if you don't know who Booker T. Washington is, founder of Tuskegee University, and he had a philosophy of the Talented 10th, Google it. It's definitely way longer than what we can get into on this podcast. So some quick hitters, and I'm going to get you guys on out of here. So what is the one food that you guys can eat all day, every day that is Louisiana based and you will not complain about? So Constance, you first, and Derek, you next. Louisiana food that you can eat all day long and not get sick of.
Is alcohol considered food?
No, I know for some people, they should have another pyramid on the food group for A. But no, alcohol does not count.
I'm just kidding. I don't even drink that. I don't even drink that much. I was just trying to give myself an extra 15 seconds to think.
Oh, great play on the follow.
Yeah, so I don't. Let me, Henderson. Why don't you answer that? I think I need a few more seconds.
You know what? I could probably eat jambalaya all day. I could eat. I like gumbo. That's really Louisiana. I like blackened fish. It's really good. So those are probably the three for me.
Okay.
So I like shrimp and grits. I love shrimp and grits. I love fried catfish. So I always tell people, like, Texas, they are big on barbecues. To me, people in Louisiana are big on fish fries. So yeah, so some fried fish with jambalaya.
Sounds like I need to find a church fundraiser that says fish fry for $7 going toward so-and-so's building fund, because I could do a good fish fry plate, and I got to
what?
Go ahead.
Andouille sausages, beignets. If you find the right beignets are really good. Yeah.
Now for me, it would have to be po' boys. Now, for those who don't know what a po' boy is, got to get some French baguette bread and get you some shrimp, some fish, some oysters, and whatever toppings you want, like tomatoes, lettuce, whatever. Put that on real nice. You got you a nice, good, thick po' boy sandwich. That'd be for me. So that I always wanted to come to Louisiana because I'm a foodie. So I'm gonna tell people, like, I don't care what y'all serve. I just want shrimp, fish, oysters, gumbo, po' boys, beignets from Cafe Du Monde, and if I come down doing Mardi Gras, some king cake.
You know, I don't like Cafe Du Monde.
So you think it's overrated and it's just for tourists?
It's definitely for tourists. The beignets are not good.
I'll be in that number though. But speaking of New Orleans, like I was telling you earlier, my pastor's from Louisiana. And whenever he would preach at my church and we would play When the Saints Come Marching In, I'm a Carolina Panthers fan. Saints in the same division. I do not stand or sing when that song come on. That's how petty of a fan I am. Sorry, Saints fans. I hope Drew Brees retires soon, Tom Brady as well, so that the Panthers can take the division. Keep pounding. Yes, I said it. So before we close, tell us a little bit about Circle of Truth and where can folks hear it?
So Circle of Truth, we do have a Facebook platform. And also, if you go to my page, I'm sorry about that. If you go to my page, Constance Love, or you go to Derek Henderson's page, we do have our podcasts on there. We've had, I don't know, maybe about 8 or 9 podcasts. We started the theme of our podcast, and we also have a Facebook page as well, and it's called Where Do We Go From Here? So where do we go from here? And we do have, yeah, some of the various podcasts. The very last podcast that we recorded was dealing with reparations. We've, like I said, we've had W.E. Du Bois on there. We've also discussed police brutality behind the blue curtain. So we've talked about a variety of topics, and we're going to resume within the next couple of weeks. We're going to resume taping. We had to put it on hold because it's hurricane season, and just been we really been busy
Okay.
with
I
work.
like
So
to think of Circle of Truth as the place where the players, politicians, professionals can all come and represent their point of view on any issue, and it's respected. I think that that's one thing that that we don't value. I think we tend to want to make Black people to be monolithic, and we're just as diverse as any other race of people. And so, for me, that's what I really appreciate about the Circle of Truth is that my thought, my opinion may not be the same as yours, but I can respect it. And so, because I can meet people where they are. And so Circle of Truth provides that kind of a platform, in my opinion.
All right. And
yeah.
give out the Facebook page where folks can catch previous episodes and where they can like and follow when new episodes resume.
So it's Where Do We Go From Here? Either that, or if you want, and Where Do We Go From Here is if you want to check out the different podcasts, or you can go on my personal page, which is Constance Love, or you can go to Wynette Love. I have it on there as well. Now, if you're interested in different topics of discussion, then you can go into the platform Circle of Truth. And within that platform, we do post, or I post, a variety of questions
Talk about
depending upon
everything, everything.
everything. We might talk about dating, we might talk about polygamy, we may talk about viewpoint Trump, Biden, Kamala Harris. We may talk about, mental health issues in the African American community. We talk about the fact that this is not something positive. Louisiana is either number 1 or number 2 with domestic violence in the African American community. We talk about that. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of things, and sometimes we laugh, and sometimes people get upset. I'm very interactive. Henderson, not so much, but I'm very interactive in the group. If you guys have been watching this, you already see I have a little edge. So I'm that person that will post a question, and if someone says something, I'm going to challenge you.
So
Because
have your thinking cap on, people, and be ready to debate and back up your opinions with facts. And I definitely got to say this: we got to learn to agree to disagree. That's just my little 2 cents. That's more I could get into, but I choose not to because the statements reflected by me does not reflect Constance Love or Derek Henderson. So you guys got any shout outs you want to give before we conclude this interview and also plug social media?
I'd just like to send a shout out to my 5-year-old son, Jayden, and to my wife, Shannon, to my family, and that's it.
All right, Constance.
Well, I want to send a shout out to my sons. I have 3 adult sons. I hate to say this. And then I have two granddaughters and I have a grandson.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
other than that, yeah, I like to send a
Look,
huh?
that says nothing about your age. They could have
Yes,
started.
it does
No, they
because
look. They could have started early.
yeah, I started when I was like 10 years old. So I had
I
my
was
oldest.
talking about. I was talking about the boys, not you.
Oh, okay.
The
So
young
yes.
men.
Yes. So I had my son on the first podcast
Mm.
and he was like, "Well, this is my mother." And then he kept talking about his wife and two kids and one on the way. And you should have seen the looks on the guys. They were like, so when Nathan stepped off the platform, they were like, "Oh, grandma." I was like,
Mhm.
Well, don't that beat all, man. So you can catch this interview on wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher Radio, and the video portion of this interview will be available on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/J85. Ladies and gentlemen, give a big round of applause for Miss Constance Love and Derek Henderson from the podcast Circle of Truth. Thank you all for coming on to the podcast and doing this interview.
Thank you for having us, and I want to
yes.
encourage all the people in Georgia to go register at least 5 additional people to go vote, and then to make sure that they get back to the polls on January 5th.
All right. Anything else you want to add, Constance, before we close? Or are you good?
I just want to say thank you so much for allowing us an opportunity to come on your platform. It's different sitting on this side and someone else is in control and asking the questions. So thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to come on your platform and kind of see what it's like being in the hot seat, kind of
Well,
going unscripted. So thank you
yeah.
so much. I really appreciate that. And I also, you've been very, very instrumental, very, very helpful in me helping expanding my brand. So I want to thank you for being
No
willing to
problem.
share information. Huh?
I said no problem. It's all about helping and connecting. If I got something, you got something. It's helping each other, and then they get paid back tenfold in return.
Yes, and I appreciate that. I really do. I
Now, did you
appreciate
say
that very much. Huh?
are you in New Mexico? Is that where you are, Gerald?
Yes, I
Jarrell?
am in New Mexico.
And the black people in New Mexico?
Yes, there are black people in
How
New
many?
Mexico.
How
5?
many? How
No,
many?
it's more than 5. So the area where I'm at, the population is super small. Well, it's big for me because the town I come from in North Carolina is like 1,100. But when I lived in Albuquerque for a year, it's maybe about 5-6%. But a lot of people are East Coast transplants from the Carolinas, Maryland, whatever, what have you, because we have military presence in Albuquerque with the Air Force Base and Sandia Labs. It's based out of Albuquerque, so a lot of people's out there to work. But you have a few people that stay here for quite a bit, but mostly some you stay for a spell and then you move on to the next.
So
Uh,
they're there working not just because.
yeah, they're there for work, not just cause I like New Mexico. It's different. I'll tell you guys more about that in just a second. Ladies and gentlemen, Constance Love and Derek Henderson from Circle of Truth. Thank you guys for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So